Today, we need to talk about a disturbing event that unfolded right inside the Oval Office of the White House, one that raises serious questions about the rule of law in the United States under President Donald Trump's leadership. This isn't just about immigration. This is about whether a sitting U.S. president can openly ignore the courts, laugh about it, and walk away unchallenged. On April 14th, President Donald Trump met with Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele, a man who once called himself the world's coolest dictator. During their Oval Office meeting, the two men appeared to openly mock the U.S. justice system. Their conversation came just days after the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland father and legal U.S. resident who was deported to El Salvador despite a court ruling that prohibited such action. Let's break down what happened and why it should concern every single American. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, 29 years old, is a father and a sheet metal worker who lived in Maryland. He was detained on March 12 by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and quickly deported to El Salvador. The Trump administration later admitted in court that his deportation was the result of what they called an administrative error. But this was no simple paperwork mistake. An immigration judge had already ruled back in 2019 that Abrego Garcia could not be deported to El Salvador because doing so would place him at serious risk of persecution. That ruling should have protected him. But it was ignored. Instead, Garcia was sent to a notorious Salvadoran prison, described by some as a modern-day gulag, in direct violation of a federal court order. On April 10, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld a lower court's order that demanded the Trump administration bring Garcia back to the United States. Justice Sonia Sotomayor didn't mince words. She wrote, "To this day, the government has cited no basis in law for Abrego Garcia's warrantless arrest, his removal to El Salvador, or his confinement in a Salvadoran prison. Nor could it." Yet, instead of complying, President Trump appeared to mock the ruling, not only by failing to act, but by inviting President Bukele to joke about it in front of cameras. During their meeting, when asked about returning Abrego Garcia to the U.S., Bukele said, "How can I return him to the United States? I smuggle him into the United States? Of course I'm not going to do it. The question is preposterous." That wasn't just a joke. That was a foreign leader, on U.S. soil, inside the White House, effectively telling the American people that their president has no power, or worse, no intention, to enforce a Supreme Court decision. And President Trump sat there, laughing. This isn't about partisan politics. It's about the law and whether anyone, including the president, is above it. If the administration can disappear a legal resident, a man with a wife and child who are U.S. citizens, and then defy the courts without consequence, what comes next? What does it mean when federal court orders are treated like suggestions? Reports also reveal that President Trump is paying the Salvadoran government $6 million to take in alleged gang members arrested by ICE, individuals who, in some cases, have been detained without due process. It raises serious ethical and legal questions. But what Trump said next during that meeting is even more alarming. He told Bukele, "Homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You gotta build about 5 more places. It's not big enough." That wasn't a throwaway comment. That was the President of the United States suggesting that full U.S. citizens, people born and raised here, might be the next to be deported to foreign prisons. Let that sink in. This is not speculation. This is what we saw on camera in the Oval Office. Whether you support or oppose President Trump, this moment should make you stop and think. Can a president really ignore the courts? Can a U.S. citizen be exiled because the government deems them a criminal, without evidence, without trial, without due process? So, what protections do any of us really have? The United States was built on the principle that no one, not even the president, is above the law. Court orders matter. Due process matters. The Constitution matters. If we lose that, we don't just lose justice for one man in Maryland. We lose the very foundation of what America is supposed to be. Whether you care about immigration or not, you should care about this case. Because this is no longer just about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is about whether the law still rules in this country, or whether we now answer to a president who thinks he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, to whoever he wants. If you believe in the rule of law, then it's time to speak up loudly and say, enough is enough. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more in-depth reporting and stay informed.